What's up everybody, Maran here for another weekly updates. There's lots of exciting news to go over this week, but before I get into all the new stuff this week, I first want to give a little heads up on how I'm going to be doing the weekly updates going forward. So I'm still going to continue doing them. They're going to be nice long videos like this one this week, but as you might have noticed this week, I did a separate video on the Honda CR-V and on the Toyota Crown, and so I think going forward, I'm going to start doing more of those single car videos, especially whenever I have embargoed materials ahead of time, like I did for those two, so I was able to do a video right when the embargo dropped, because these days, news just moves so fast, and a lot of times I miss stuff that gets posted on a Friday, and then you have to wait till the following week to get all the info on that. And it's not always great to wait till Friday for some of this stuff. And also, I've recently found out that the YouTube algorithm wants more videos. They want people to upload more frequently. And that's a easy way for me to continue to, do more videos. And also, I think, kind of give you guys the news better. I know it's not all in one easy to watch video, you can't just click play and sit there for, half an hour and watch it. But I will have them all in a playlist still. So it'll be, easy still to watch them. You can just click on the playlist. I'll have a link to the playlist and you can just let it play through to catch up on those videos, for example, like the CR-V and the Crown this week. But hopefully you guys are gonna be okay with that. I love doing everything in one video, but I feel like with the way news moves so fast these days, especially aside from the algorithm and all that kind of stuff, it just makes sense to not wait until Friday every week to cover everything, especially when it's something new and exciting. And again, it's only going to be for mostly embargoed stuff that I can actually prepare a video in advance for. Otherwise, I might as well just wait till Friday instead of scrambling to rush to get something out after everyone else is posted. So, but just keep that in mind, going forward. But, we're going to have some exciting debuts here next week. We'll see how many of those I'll be able to do embargoed stuff on. But, just keep that in mind. I'll be doing some more of those going forward. But again, still have lots of stuff to cover here every week in the weekly updates, and those won't change. But anyway, so that's it as far as that little announcement. But getting into the news here this week, Honda has shown one final teaser for the Civic Type R, the new version, the 2023 that's coming out here, and they announced it will be coming out next week. So I think it's coming out on Wednesday. That's a big news story. I will most likely do a dedicated video on that car on, I think it's late Wednesday night when that'll be coming out here Eastern time. It's July 20th is the exact date, 10 p.m. for those of you who are going to be waiting up for that. So along with the teaser image here, which again doesn't really show us much more than we've already seen with all the camo and stuff, they said that it will be the most powerful Honda branded vehicle, production vehicle ever offered in the U.S. So that means it's going to have more power than the current Civic Type R, which is refreshing considering the Civic Si didn't get any more power. So the fact that this will have more power, that is going to be great. How much more remains to be seen, but that sounds promising, and I'm excited to see what they end up doing with that. And so stay tuned for all the details on that next week. Another performance vehicle that'll be debuting next week is the Ford F-150 Raptor R, and so Ford teased it. It's going to be coming out on July 18th, so that's on Monday. Again, probably doesn't make sense to wait till Friday because it'll be old news by then, but we'll see if I can get a video out on that one or not. But the teaser image says it'll be beyond fast, scary fast. So that's it will be scary fast, I'm sure. If you have the Shelby GT500 motor and something that has a soft suspension and is crazy and huge like the Raptor, should be a pretty wild ride. But I don't think it's going to be any more scary fast than an actual GT500, but still should be very, very exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the details on that. Hyundai has some big news this week here. They have their N Day where they're showing off some of their performance stuff, and they debuted two exciting concepts, but sadly they didn't reveal the Ioniq 5N or give any details on it whatsoever. No teaser image of it, nothing, which is kind of shocking because that's what everyone was expecting. Like that's the one that's going to be coming next, but instead we have radio silence on it here. They say it's going to debut. They did confirm it is coming, and it'll debut later this year. But that's all we have, which, I feel like they could have at least released the specs. We know it's going to use the same setup as the Kia EV6 GT, which we got info on last year. This is old news as far as the power stuff goes, so I don't know. But anyway, that's the way they're deciding to play it, so we'll continue to wait for that. But the first concept they revealed is strangely, another odd thing, is called the RN22e, even though this is clearly an Ioniq 6N. But anyway, the RN22e stands for a rolling test bed. That's what R stands for. N is obviously the N performance division. 22 is the year, and E is for the electric thing. But anyway, whatever they end up calling it, it will end up being the Ioniq 6N if they do decide to produce it, which seems like a safe bet. Even the designer designer of the Ioniq 6 was saying this would make a great performance vehicle, and so I mean they're going to probably do it. It's easy, again, with these electric setups especially. Same motors, you just pop them in there. You got the same battery pack as the regular car. Obviously you have unique suspension tuning, brake tuning, all that kind of stuff. But there aren't the huge cost factors of engineering a brand new engine or anything, so I feel like this stuff is a little bit easier to approve. Anyway, the specs are predictable here. It's the same as the Kia EV6 GT once again. I feel like Kia really ruined the party for Hyundai as far as the specs on this thing, because Kia gave us this info a year ago. Anyway, so it means it's 577 horsepower, 546 pound-feet of torque from 2 electric motors and a 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery. It also gets a new rear limited slip diff, 4-piston brake calipers up front, and larger 15.75-inch rotors as well. So very impressive brakes to go for, the heavier ends here we're going to have with these electric ones. It also has a few innovative ideas as well, like regenerative braking that can vary to change the car's handling. So it'll kind of play with the brake balance a little bit, I think, to, just kind of loosen things up maybe a little bit, make it a little more lively, which sounds exciting. Plus, on top of that, there's a new technology they're calling N Sound Plus that not only does artificial sounds, which can be pretty cool if you experience the Elantra N. There's like a sound to make it sound like a TCR race car and stuff. So in addition to that stuff, which I think is a worthy thing to explore for electric vehicles to give them more excitement, they also say that this system can provide vibrations through the chassis to provide more drama and excitement as well. And, that could be weird depending on how they execute it. But if they make it, feel like it's got some kind of roaring engine or something, that could be very exciting as well. Again, this is just stuff that no one else is trying. So I commend them for thinking outside of the box, for taking a risk and not just, following in line with everyone else, having, nice, quiet, boring electric vehicles. I like that they're trying to do this stuff, even if it is artificial and manufactured. I'd still take fake drama over no drama at all, personally. But so anyway, we'll see how that all plays out. And I'm hoping that also is something we'll see on the Ioniq 5N, so we don't have to wait years and years to try that out. We'll have to see, when that actually debuts. But anyway, it looks very cool as well. It might be a little extreme for what an actual production Ioniq 6N would look like, but, slightly smaller wing maybe, maybe not as crazy of a wide body setup or something. We'll see, but they could go that crazy as well because, it's Hyundai. They've been known to do some pretty bold stuff, so we'll have to see. Anyway, the second concept, speaking of bold, is a little more far out, but I still think this thing has a decent chance of possibly getting produced in one way or another. So it's called the N Vision 74, and the design is heavily inspired by the 1974 Hyundai Pony Coupe concept, which is the same vehicle that inspired the styling for the Ioniq 5. But here it takes the form of an actual retro-looking coupe like the concept. And honestly, I think this looks more like the new DeLorean than the new DeLorean looks like the new DeLorean. It's like Hyundai nailed it. This thing put a flux capacitor in it and put the neon stuff on the outside, and I think you got your new DeLorean movie car here. And also, its propulsion is closer to the Back to the Future car than the actual DeLorean from the new one as well. So this thing runs an electric hydrogen setup. It has 2 motors in the back, one for each wheel, that also provides advanced torque vectoring along with rear-wheel drive. So this thing's only rear-wheel drive, and it's going to be a handful because they combine to make 670 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque, and it's powered by a 62.4 kilowatt-hour battery combined with a 4.2 kilogram hydrogen tank that can be refilled in 5 minutes that also generates electricity. So this means, because 64, or 62 kilowatt hour battery, that's, roughly 15 less than what you get on a regular Ioniq 5, for example, but that still could provide you with, potentially 150, even depending on aerodynamics, could be close to 200 miles of range, especially since it's only rear-wheel drive. So 200 miles roughly of all EV range, plus you have the hydrogen thing to keep you going, to give you that flexibility. But it's, he had that flexibility of, you have a big battery still, so if you want to drive like a normal electric car, you can, but you also have the hydrogen thing as well, which I think they say can also come into play to give you like some overboost kind of stuff and give you extra little jolts of power. And so, but yeah, if you don't have access to hydrogen, you can still drive it, which is, great considering most people don't have access to hydrogen, at least not easily. And so Hyundai says that with everything combined and working together, you can get over 373 miles of range on the easier European testing cycle with this vehicle. So, still very impressive. And again, the fact that you can generate electricity on the go with that hydrogen is very very, very cool. And by the way it's packaged, it's pretty cool. So I think the tank is in the back, but then the hydrogen fuel cell is packaged under the hood where you'd normally have an engine. Obviously, you have some free space there with an electric vehicle, with the motors being in the back and the floor. So battery packs on the floor. So it's kind of cleverly packaged, so you don't really have any weird compromises from a hydrogen standpoint like you get with some other hydrogen vehicles. So I think it's pretty well done. And Hyundai and Rimac, where they have a partnership where they were doing some type of combined hydrogen electric thing. I didn't see that this was the result of that partnership, but I have to assume that is what this is. It's very high performance. It combines the electric and the hydrogen thing. I mean, they've previously teased it in like sedans that were kind of stinger looking. But I think that this could be what they were working on here. And so, and this is supposedly like a real working thing. This isn't some like, computer generated thing that's going to be in Gran Turismo or something. This is an actual real thing that works. And so, yeah, I mean, I still think that because you have the fairly large battery pack, this could make sense even in a 2022 world with, very little hydrogen stations and stuff. But I also think another way they could spin this, obviously this is a very cool test bed and maybe the technology isn't ready for the prime time for, a little while, but this could also be a nicely veiled teaser for just a coupe Ioniq. Again, I mean, it's a little more complicated than just Lego cars, but it's essentially you take the Ioniq 5 platform and you bolt it onto a coupe body. Again, you don't have to re-engineer any kind of mechanical stuff because it's all the same. You're, doing that part sharing and cost sharing. And so, maybe it'd be a little bit easier to approve an actual legit coupe like this, even though they would sell terribly, but could be something kind of as a cool halo model, something to draw in enthusiasts into the electric stuff in Hyundai. We'll see. But man, I love that they went super retro with this styling. I think this thing would sell like crazy. This honestly reminds me of like when Dodge came out with like the Challenger and stuff, where it's like, yes, it's super retro, but it's super cool looking. People would love it. I think this is an absolute home run from a styling standpoint. Please, Hyundai, tear off the wing if you have to and the crazy front lip and stuff, but make that thing with the Ioniq 5 powertrain and I would be overjoyed. I think that would be plenty, even if it doesn't have this crazy cool, setup. But anyway, very interesting to see those. Let me know what you think about those concepts in the comments below. Hyundai has also earlier this week revealed the mechanical details for the Ioniq 6 this week. And again, not very many surprises, but there are a couple of new little bits of information. So like we assumed, it uses the same platform as Ioniq 5, 800 volt electrical system, you have the same 77.4 kilowatt hour battery. But thanks to this better aerodynamics, Hyundai is claiming 379 miles of range, again on that easier European test cycle, but it should still be well above 300 here in the US and certainly have higher range numbers than the Ioniq 5. So great to see that. Otherwise, performance looks to be about the same as the Ioniq 5. They said that the all-wheel drive version does 320 horsepower, 446 pound-feet of torque once again, along with a 5.1 second 0 to 60, which is actually identical to the Ioniq 5. So if this vehicle is lighter, it's not by much, considering it has the same acceleration times. And so a rear-wheel drive version will also be available. We don't have any specs for that one yet, but the safe bet is it'll be the same specs as the rear-wheel drive Ioniq 5. We also get some more details about the interior here. So the ambient lighting has 64 selectable colors and has a speed sync lighting feature that can change the lights as you accelerate, and they also can warn you when you're going too fast, which might be a little annoying for some people, but very cool to have them kind of speed up. That's something we've seen in some other EVs recently as well, and so that would be a very cool thing. It also gets the relaxation seats that you get in the Ioniq 5 with the little footrest that slides out whenever you're parked and you recline that seat there. And so production will begin in South Korea in the third quarter of this year, so basically starting like now. So coming out very, very quickly, and sales here in the US will be starting in the first quarter of 2023. So expect, in the winter, early spring here is, when you'll start seeing Ioniq 6s show up, which is a pretty quick turnaround. So I'm excited, to start seeing these things on the road. And pricing will be coming, I think, around November when it'll be debuting for the US version, which will basically be the same, but have orange side markers and not have the camera side view mirrors. So you'll have bigger mirrors on it. Otherwise, it should be identical. Guessing that'll debut at the LA Auto Show since they're talking about November, and that's the big thing in November. So that's when we'll see all the US details, hopefully get US pricing at that point and stuff as well. But anyway, very cool to, get some more details on that. And we have a few interesting rumors here to talk about this week. So first off, BMW blog is reporting that their anonymous sources claim that BMW may be offering a manual for the Z4 M40i version here for the 2023 model year, only in America most likely. So this wouldn't be too surprising considering the Supra is also getting a manual here for the 2023 model year, but Toyota made it sound like they engineered that manual themselves and it was this unique thing. Maybe it is, and maybe BMW was like, hey, well, maybe we should offer a manual for the Z4 as well, considering, I mean, they do offer a manual for the M3, so I think they're cognizant of the American demand for manuals. So, you know, I don't know if it was Toyota that, you know, engineered that and then BMW decided to work a deal with them, or if BMW had this in the plans already, they used some M3 parts bin stuff and Toyota just happened to get it first and were able to kind of, you know, tout that as being their thing. I'm not sure which way that's going, but regardless, I think a manual Z4 would be awesome. There's a manual Z4 for the base model in certain European countries already, but nothing for the 6-cylinder. But I think, again, it would be a great addition. Again, this isn't confirmed yet, but supposedly there's a light refresh coming for the 2023 Z4 here relatively soon. It'll most likely, you know, have the same kind of styling tweaks you saw here on the brand new 3 Series with that refresh. Probably get some new infotainment tech, again, using the new screen that everything else is getting and stuff. So, you know, I'm guessing that they'll debut it around that time, but we'll see. You know, I guess it's not confirmed, but certainly makes sense considering it's technically feasible. The parts are there. You know, I could see that making a lot of sense. And so yeah, very interesting to hear that. Mopar Insiders has a report this week claiming that Dodge is planning a new limited edition version of the Challenger in one of many, many millions we've got here, but this one is going to be a little bit different. So it's going to be running E85 from the factory to allow it to have more horsepower than the 840 horsepower that the Demon has. So, I mean, this seems pretty legit also because Dodge on their own little teaser calendar that they've put out for the next like 2 years for what they're planning here. One of them shows a moonshine jug on one of those garage doors, which also suggests something that's running ethanol. So this lines up with that. And, you know, the big Roadkill Nights event that Dodge always sponsors, that's coming up in the second week of August. So we'll likely get more info on that then. That would be definitely a big crowd pleaser if they come out with something with 850 horsepower or more. You know, is again another kind of a last hurrah here for these Hellcats and stuff before they go away, you know, in the next year or so or two. So we'll see, you know, if that turns out to be true, but certainly that seems like a pretty believable rumor. It's interesting to hear that. Australian website Drive also has another Mopar report here this week. So they claim to have insider information that shows that Chrysler is working on an electric sedan. So this isn't a big revelation. I mean, you know, we assumed that Chrysler was going to work on an electric sedan. Chrysler has previously said that they're going to remain in all the segments they are currently in and just reinvent some of those and stuff. So clearly an electric minivan's coming, and that would mean an electric version of the 300 is also, you know, most likely coming. So as far as the details here, they're saying that, you know, it's going to be similar to the current arrangement where Chrysler will be getting stuff from Dodge and they kind of do part sharing. So basically the new Chrysler 300 or whatever they end up calling it will essentially be the new Dodge electric muscle car, which will, you know, be getting a 4-door Charger variant most likely. And then, you know, after that comes, then we'll see a Chrysler 300 electric thing a little bit later. They're saying in this report that it'll come around 2026, which lines up with timing because Chrysler has said their first EV will be coming in 2025. That will most likely be the Airflow concept that we've seen many times. It also already looks very close to production already. So that's 2025. In 2026, we get the new 300. I'm surprised we're not getting a new minivan sooner, though, because, you know, Pacifica is already on its refresh here, and, you know, having people wait another, you know, 4 or more years for, you know, an electric van seems a little bit surprising, but, you know, then again, with the lower demand for vans and stuff, I could see that, you know, totally making sense. I mean, look how long the current Caravan lasted. Anyway, interesting to get that your little story there, and I'm just glad that, you know, it sounds like Chrysler's going to be committed to sedans still, even though many other companies are walking away from them and getting rid of them little by little. It's great to see Chrysler will stick around with those, and so interesting to hear that. Another company that's thankfully sticking with sedans here is Cadillac. So they teased some very revealing additional pictures here of the Celestiq this week. At this point, we've basically seen the entire car. The full reveal will be happening next Friday, so stay tuned for that. But I mean, now we have nothing left to really imagine. We see a perfectly clear shot of the back end, which looks really cool, by the way. It kind of just exaggerates what we've already seen with the Lyriq. I mean, looks really cool though. I'm getting some 70s vibes from the back end there. It's like Aston Martin Lagonda from the 70s, like that kind of thing there with the back end. I'm kind of getting a little bit of. And also, the angular kind of lights can remind me of the fins, from the 50s and 60s of the Cadillacs and stuff as well. So, we also have some shots of the interior, which looks very luxurious. And so, we'll just have to see about the pricing, because they did say these are going to be hand built. They're going to be very rare. I think they said they're only making a few hundred of them every year, most likely. But the rumors keep going up and up on the pricing. First, it was like they'll be over 100 grand, then they're like it'll be over 200 grand. Now they're saying, at least with options, it'll be over $300,000. And I mean, that interior looks impressive, and maybe it is just as nice as a Bentley inside. I mean, the screen there in the front looks like it's going to be massive and go from A pillar to A pillar. It's going to have some sweet stuff on it, but we'll see how it's received considering that pricing, because it'll be interesting. So anyway, we'll get more details on that next Friday. For some other GM news here, GMC has revealed the 2023 Sierra AT4X AEV edition. So the AEV edition, they're the same company that does the Bison version of the Colorado ZR2 with the snorkel and all that. So GMC says it's the most capable production Sierra ever. And so it takes the AT4X, which is the same hardware as the Silverado ZR2, but then adds in some steel bumpers and improved approach and departure angles and 33-inch mud tires that are also on unique 18-inch wheels to provide an extra 0.4 inches of ground clearance and a slightly better breakover angle. And so anyway, there's no pricing for these yet, and GMC says they won't be arriving until later in the 2023 model year. So I mean, we're talking about something that probably won't arrive till well into the 2023 calendar year, I'm guessing. So it might be a bit of a wait for those, but very interesting to see that nonetheless. Jeep has announced 2 new colors for the Wrangler for 2023 alongside some other very minor changes. So the gray color is cleverly called Earl, and the purple color is called Rain. So Earl Grey and Purple Rain, essentially. So very cool to get just the fun names of the colors. And so Earl's going to be available for the whole 2023 model year, but Rain will only be available to order until the end of October. So just a few months to order that one. Very limited, I guess. And so other changes for the 2023 Wranglers are you now have as standard an American flag decal on the front fenders. There's new wheels for the Rubicons, and there's a new Freedom Edition available for a limited time, which gives you a steel front bumper, rock rails, along with unique decals and badging. And it's also great to hear that they confirmed the 392 V8 version will continue to stick around. So that's great, because I was a little worried maybe that wouldn't be a super long run, but thankfully, we have another model year of it here, and that continues to be the most hilariously fun Jeep I've ever driven, I think. Trackhawk's, very close as well, but the 392 Wrangler was just wild. And so anyway, very cool to see that that's sticking around. CarBuzz this week has discovered that Ford has filed trademarks for the Ranger Lightning and Maverick Lightning names. So that suggests, obviously, both will be getting an electric version. And so I mean, you shouldn't expect anything too soon, though, even though these are trademarked. Maybe we get some concepts soon, but as far as the actual production vehicles, we aren't even getting the regular new Ranger until sometime next year, even though the rest of the world already has it. We're still going to be waiting around until next year for that. And then an electric version, I can't imagine coming, at the same time. So it's got to be, at least 2024 before we see that. Maverick, I don't know. I mean, obviously it makes sense to do an electric version, but I have no clue what they're going to do there, because I don't think the Mach-E platform is going to fit with the Maverick. And then, I feel like it's going to have to be something totally unique from an engineering standpoint for something to actually work with the Maverick, chassis and components and size. So we'll see about that, but it certainly makes sense to do electric versions of everything, especially for the trucks that call them Lightning. It certainly makes sense too. So stay tuned for that. And I think, between the two, it's a safer bet to assume the Ranger Lightning will be coming first, especially since there's going to be some new competition there. We do know it sounds like Toyota's going to be doing an electric version of the Tacoma, because they teased one, back at their EV day at the beginning of this year. So I think if that's on the horizon, Ford might have a little more pressure there to hurry up and get the Ranger version out before the Maverick version. Especially also they can't even keep up with Maverick sales currently, and the hybrid already gets fantastic fuel economy and stuff. So there's probably less pressure to get an electric Maverick out super soon. So expect the Ranger one first. But anyway, very interesting to hear that. And lastly, last news story here. One company that won't be making electric vehicles anytime soon is Pagani. So Horacio Pagani told Autocar in a recent event that after a 4-year study on the viability of an electric Pagani, we never found interest in the supercar market for an EV. Which is interesting because Rimac seems to be doing fairly well, for another small niche thing that builds, probably a similar amount of cars to Pagani. We have the Pininfarina Battista, which is, it's just started production as well, which seems to have takers. So someone's buying electric supercars. I'm not sure where Pagani was doing the research, but I don't know. Obviously, it's not correct because there's people buying Rimacs and these Pininfarina things. But anyway, he says there's no interest for EVs, at least not from Pagani. So that's interesting. But regardless, he said they aren't suitable for the brand anyway, mainly because he says Paganis are about more than straight line acceleration. And he said, I own a Tesla to understand EVs, and it's not necessary to have such high performance in them. Get to that in a second. He says, the challenge is to make an EV that gives good emotion like a normal internal combustion car. Pagani isn't going to do something just with good performance as you can do this now, but to give emotion to the driver. The idea should be to make a lightweight car, but this isn't possible. So, because he says that's the biggest challenge, and the dream would be to, do a 1,300 kilogram vehicle, which is 2,866 pounds for an EV supercar. I'm not sure, again, what the Rimacs weigh off the top of my head, but again, I'm sure a Rimac isn't terrible to drive. I'm sure this Pininfarina thing isn't going to be terrible to drive. Neither will the electric Ferrari coming down the road and all these other things. I don't know. I mean, especially with all the carbon fiber usage and all the high-tech lightweight components you can use in these multi-million-dollar cars. I mean, if he says it's not possible, I believe him. I'm not trying to pretend like I know more than the founder of Pagani, but it's just surprising he says there's no demand whenever clearly there is demand, and that, he says that they're going to be terrible to drive whenever there seem to be supercars with electric stuff that are good to drive. But anyway, I respect him for having a clear vision for what he wants Pagani to be. And, again, it's a very niche thing. And he also, by the way, along with all those comments, he defended supercar emissions as well to kind of put things in context. So he says, at the moment, 90% of energy is produced without renewables. It's silly to think that only a few supercars with an internal combustion engine can have a negative impact on the climate when 90% of energy is produced in a bad way. Obviously, that also has some caveats. The 90% thing, is maybe in 2022 here, but that also depends on where you live as far as how much of it is renewable, how you charge it. If you have solar panels on your roof, then it actually is totally clean. So there's those types of things as well. And we do know that this technology will be improving with, more renewable energy coming and stuff. So, but yes, in 2022, it's probably not, the super green thing, especially when you're talking about supercars, which are very niche and all that. So, I totally understand that point for right now, but, again, all these plans, all these other car companies are doing, aside from the current stuff with Rimac and all that, all these future things are for down the road whenever we will have more renewable energy and all that. And so, but I certainly understand his point of view for 2022 here. It certainly makes sense for right now. And regardless, again, supercars are such a small number. It doesn't really matter what we do with them, as I talked about with the EU stuff a few weeks ago. And so anyway, his plans are to stick with, the twin-turbo V12 stuff, and that's the plan. So the next one coming here is called the Pagani C10. That'll be debuting in September. Apparently, they've already sold like 100 of them. They're already basically sold out without even being revealed. So clearly, everyone's totally happy to keep going with those gas-powered Paganis. And so anyway, very interesting interview, kind of hearing some of his thoughts and why he's doing what he's doing. Anyway, lastly, I want to give a huge thank you to those of you who became new members of the Maran Motoring Club this week. So I want to give a shout out to Karsten Peterson, Sawyer Martin, and Casey Rotary for all becoming members this week. I really appreciate the support. Hope you guys are enjoying the perks so far. And for anyone else who'd like to join, there's going to be a link in the description. You can also hit the join button here on the video page or the channel page if you're on a computer as well. And but I very much appreciate the support. And stay tuned here. In about a week or two, I'm going to be having another live stream here towards the end of the month, so stay tuned for an announcement on that. But anyway, that's it as far as all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.